You ever fed me sorbet? Let's step up your game, man. Mr. Holden would feed me sorbet. That Axel, he's so hot right now. What? You whore, you're not even gonna tell them that I didn't take the money? Like the good little child that I am? Mr. Holden? I could have said that you were cute and told Derek that I liked you, but I didn't, Mr. Holden, and this is how you do me? Do me dirty, Mr. Holden. That came out wrong. We'll take you out back at high noon and give you what for? Oh, Mom! Put your pistol away. What would have happened if I would have told Derek Mr. Holden? Now I want to know. What's up, bitches? It's Noisy Face. Back for doing 2 more moments in our life, beginnings and always. We're going to see what happens today with talks and charity, and then I still don't know what happens once we do the last 2, but I guess we're going to find out. So let's get to getting. Another placid summer day was drifting by. Your daydreams were chasing each other, none sticking around long enough to become a firm plan, but you really didn't mind that right now. A tapping worked its way into those dreams. Focusing more, you realized it was coming from your window. A grin popped on your face, as though it had been waiting all day for this moment. Heading to the window, you could see Cove outside. His habit of climbing this way really was true Coveism. He'd rather scale your house than wait the couple extra minutes for you to come down. I will give him space. He will come in my window on his own. He stepped across the windowsill with practiced care, brushing his hands down his pants when he was safe on the floor. Hey, French fires. What's up? Welcome home. You think my mom should invest in some bigger windows? Cove laughed at that, took one last look at his exclusive entrance. He hummed with a teasing look on his face. Make life easier, that's for sure. Cove's face came out quietly, with a strangely pleased smile on his face. Did something happen? Cove opened his mouth to answer, only to have your phone ring cut him off. You both turned to where it rested a little further up on your bed. It was still face down, so you couldn't tell who was calling. It's okay. Your attention shot back to Cove, and he smiled at you awkwardly. Go check it. Could be important. I'll wait. Thanks. You shuffled forward and scooped the little noisemaker into your hand. You flipped it over and checked the caller ID. It's Miranda. Oh, you should answer it. I want to say hi too. With a nod, you accepted the call and set it to speaker. Hi, Miranda. Hi. There was something off about her tone. Cove met your gaze and you saw the same confusion in his expression. Or did you hear about her from Cove? Huh? No, she hasn't called me, but Cove is with me right now. Hey. Oh, hi, Cove. Is that what you were gonna say? He shook his head no before realizing it wasn't a good enough answer when one person couldn't actually see it. Oh no, Terry hasn't called me either today. Is something wrong? At that, Miranda couldn't hold herself together any longer. The muffled sobs from the other side of the line were unmistakable. Terry doesn't like me anymore. If she ever did. What? That doesn't sound right. You're probably her best friend out of all of us. Yeah, why do you think that? She sniffled, and there was a pause as you could hear her shift the phone to the other hand. Terry was here the other night watching movies with me. We weren't up super late. She realized her parents probably went to bed, so they couldn't pick her up. My mom and dad were definitely asleep then. Dad works early. I tried telling her it was okay to spend the night and she could text her parents what happened, but Terry really didn't want to. He glanced at Cove. He looked equally unsure about where this story was going. It didn't sound like a friendship-ending situation. I suggested things to make it easier if she was nervous, like she could sleep by herself in my room while I stayed somewhere else. Yeah? And I said we didn't have to sleep at all. We could keep watching movies until one of our parents woke up. I wouldn't have minded. I know not everyone could do sleepovers, but Terry wouldn't tell me what was really wrong or what I could do to help. I thought we could tell each other anything. I guess I was wrong. Did she stay in the end? We got too loud in the kitchen and my dad woke up. He offered to drive her home and he heard what was wrong. She texted me apologizing for my dad having to do that when he needed rest, but that was it. She isn't talking to me anymore. Well, I think she's got a crush on you, girl. I'm just saying. You could hear every bit of the tears and heartbreak in Miranda's voice. This continued to be a shock for your neighbor, but Cove recovered and spoke gently. Really sorry. No way Terry wanted to make you feel this bad, or that she's just done with your friendship because of this. Miranda's sniffling continued. You hope she had plenty of tissues handy. It'll be okay. I hope Terry's alright. It's really weird that she acted like that. It's not a big deal. You weren't sure what okay. I hate saying it'll be okay when I don't know that. I mean, I do hope Terry is alright, but I'm kind of talking to Miranda right now. I'm not gonna say anything. We're gonna go with that. The thoughts in your head were spinning. This wasn't like Terry, at least not that you'd seen. Your guts turned as you wondered who to worry about more. Miranda's voice sounded a little bit more collected after finishing her story, but you knew that the crying was far from being done. Thought she'd have reached out to one of you by now. She's not talking to anyone. Yeah. Sorry for bothering you and Cove about this. Apology accepted. Don't worry about it. Right. You can tell us things. Thank you. Her shaking voice finally conveyed a little optimism, or at least relief that she wasn't dealing with it entirely on her own. If you do hear from her or anything, would you let me know if she's alright? Me can. Thanks. Talk later, okay? Bye. 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 It didn't really seem like an especially productive point to end the call, though you also weren't sure where to go from there. Looking at Cove, his face seemed as lost as yours. With no alternative, you hung up and put your phone back on your bed. Cove crossed his arms, a frown creasing his face. He began to pace the length of your room, clearly trying to put the pieces together in his head in a way that made sense. You were worried, you felt confident about this working out. It sounded like trouble, you weren't sure how to react. Yeah, I don't really know what's going on with this, so we're gonna go there. It was all too sudden and unclear. The empty state of your head before learning this was not helping you now. You couldn't put two thoughts together, and flopping back on your bed, you stared into space. You should probably try calling Terry. Cove's voice managed to drag you back into some grounding. He'd stopped pacing, but you still saw a perturbed look on his face. Is this really something we should get involved with right now? Cove's mouth pressed into a hard line. At the moment, it seemed like the two of you were on very different wavelengths as how to deal with this. I want to talk to Terry. She's my friend too. Fine. Call her. Cove looked away and pulled his phone out. You went over and stood at his side. and he was dialing. Cove let it ring, and ring, and ring. Terry didn't answer. There wasn't even an option to leave a voice message. Your shoulders thumped and Cove looked more troubled, if that was possible. He turned to you as if for some lifeline. Could try calling? I'm gonna send a text just like, "Hey, I was trying to reach out, call me," or something. Yeah. You took your phone once more. Unfortunately, after another set of interminable rings, the line went dead. No answer. No voicemail. Hanging up, you saw Cove visibly deflate. He rubbed his arms, eyes distant, openly struggling with the whole affair. I don't like this at all. They're fighting. We barely know anything, and we're supposed to just wait and see? Despite it only being a minute since he texted Terry, Cove checked his phone again. He was desperate for progress, for something. You frowned as you watched him. You need to relax. You're making me anxious. There's no way Terry has answered you. They're gonna get over it, you know. I don't like any of those options, so... There was nothing you could think to say. All you could do now was hope that Terry was all right. It was up to her to reach back out now. Glancing at your phone in vain, you considered sending a text message too, if that would even help. This was making you feel all twisted up. You could see the same sort of discomfort in Cove's face. There was something consoling in that, at least. Words drifted from his mouth like a feeble breeze. He'll be fine. It's gonna be okay. Yeah. You could hear it in both of your voices how much you wanted to give and receive reassurance. You tried to believe the sentiments, weak as they were. What do we even say if we hear from one of them? His pacing resumed and he attempted to answer his own question. Should probably tell them to talk to each other instead of only us, maybe? He slowly came to another halt, like a gear winding down. We should find out Terry's side of the story. Oh, yeah, I think I like that. Yeah, we're gonna go with that. Nothing could be done until you knew when she thought of this. That much was certain. Cove nodded slightly in agreement. For several minutes, you both remained there in silence, drowning in your thoughts. Eventually, Cove turned around. I'm gonna text Terry that we already know what's going on. Maybe she'll have an easier time talking to us because she won't have to pretend or explain. Yeah, that might be the way to get her attention. You can't do that. Miranda didn't say it was all right to admit she talked to us. She also didn't say not to do that, though. I think you're pushing too much. That's not a good idea, Cove, not at all. I would probably tell him to be like, hey, like, call her out. See what she does. She's already not talking to us. Like, how much worse can it get? With the two of you on the same page, he steeled his gaze to prepare for taking the next step. Cove's fingers worked furiously, yet carefully. He was giving his full attention to his words. He sidled up next to you and looked, trying to watch as he was writing. Cove rapidly typed out, Hey, French Friars and I really want to talk to you. Miranda told us what happened. Please reply back. And sent. It was done. We'll just have to see what happens now. Quietly, you felt nervous. I wish you weren't so concerned with everyone else's feelings but mine. I would feel nervous. Wondered how Terry would react. A wave of nausea hit you like a ton of bricks. Finally, it seemed to dawn on him what his words had been doing to you. All the anger and frustration crumbled away, leaving a look of contrition in its place. He put his phone away. He made an effort to smile, but it was meager, and did nothing to conceal the sadness in his eyes. Really sorry, French Friars. I never know what to do with this kind of thing. Maybe we should just forget about it. He smiled just a little bit. Finally, that sounds good to me. I'd like to be alone. Could you leave? Fair. There was a part of you that worried it wouldn't be long before Cove pulled out his phone again, but you were relieved that he had put it away. The last thing you wanted was to fight with him, especially over this. Taking a deep breath in and out, you were thankful of progress of some sorts. A silence stretched on in what felt like hours, but it likely wasn't that long before there was a knock at your bedroom door and your mom peeked in. Just wanted to check on you two. Oh, Cove, when'd you get here? Is she really never gonna say anything about him just being in my room and not coming through the front door? When she saw your morose expressions, she opened the door all the way, and the question was dropped. Ma was standing there as well. She slipped past her wife to come inside your space.
Everything okay?
What's with the long faces? Are you both okay? You tried to nod, but it was no use. Your voice cracked, despite your best effort to not let it get to you more. Miranda and Terry had a big fight, and none of us can get a hold of Terry. Your parents exchanged a meaningful look, though its meaning was lost on you. I'm sorry to hear there's trouble with your friend, sweetie. Is there anything we can do to help? Out of the corner of your eye, you saw Cove rub his arm awkwardly, unable to add anything. No, we're just waiting to see if Terry calls or texts, or if Miranda does. Well, we can at least help you take your mind off things while you're waiting.
Yeah.
Another great idea, Lonnie. We can get the whole gang together for some quality time. Maybe get you two out of this room, since your friend keeps coming in through the window and, not talking to anybody. That's probably bad. Mom gave you a soft smile and added, This'll be good, especially since it might help make up for what happened at the farmer's market. Yes, it'll be wonderful. We'll go see what Liz is up to right now. Excited, she fluttered a few steps away and then stopped. She pivoted on her heels and raised a small finger, flashing a big smile at Cove. And of course, Cliff will be welcome too. Knowing your family was always there for you, that couldn't be underestimated. In fact, it meant everything to you that your moms cared so much. Thanks, Mom. Yeah, thanks. That's nice of you. You're both very welcome. Don't sweat it. Not so, kiddos. Leave things to us. Just relax and we'll call you when it's all together. You nodded and your moms dispersed for now, sprinting into action for their impromptu get-together. You flopped down on your bed, feeling like you could sink into it and disappear. Meanwhile, Cove took a spot on the chair off to the side. I see no chair! Lies! You sighed at the same time, and Cove's mouth pulled into a bent smile at that. He gave his phone another quick check, and his eyebrows furrowed. Still nothing? Yeah. This is crap, huh? Yup. Cove chewed the inside of his cheek as if to mimic the stress that was clearly eating away at him. Cove, what's wrong? What's really wrong? One disagreement doesn't make you act like this. That got a pointed pause in his movement. Cove was carefully trying to put his thoughts together, and he spoke in a fragile voice. When people you care about, when they're unhappy with each other, there's nothing you can do. At least when you're in a fight yourself, you have some responsibility, some control over it.
So...
I wish it didn't have to happen, but that isn't possible, so, oh well, I guess. His attempt at giving a nonchalant shrug after that was pitiable. Yeah, it makes me feel horrible. True, but you're right that it can't be helped. It's whatever, other people can do what they want, right? You stayed silent. mean, yeah, most of the time it can't be helped, so we're gonna go there.
I know.
He replied like he could barely muster the strength to speak. Well, we just have to focus on things we can impact, or at least try. You turned to Cove, hoping your eyes conveyed the message you were feeling better than your words. His gentle nod told you that they did. There was a question you had to ask. Is because of what happened with your parents? Cove ran a hand through his hair, a strange smile spreading across his lips. For him, this pain struck close to heart. Just as quickly as it had come, his smile was gone, lost amid his far-away gaze. Yeah, you got it. Like my parents. Despite knowing him for so many years, Cove had never spoken of the years before he moved to Sunset Bird, before his parents separated in any detail. He whispered his thoughts distantly, almost unconcerned with whether you could hear them or not. Used to fight all the time. I think they got along when I was a baby. I mean, they had to have wanted to be with each other at some point, but when I was old enough to remember anything, it was already bad. There was always something wrong and I could never help. Just wanted them to be happy. You tried to imagine your mom's breaking up. The very idea scared you. The Cove had endured that for real. Sorry. French fires.
Don't worry about it.
It's okay. Despite that revelation, Cove gazed reassuringly at you. Not like that anymore. Things are different now. I don't even really think about it. Again, the sorrow reasserted itself. When he continued, you could barely hear him. Though I guess it's pretty obvious I haven't forgotten it either. You tried to smile for him. You crossed the room and took his hand. You went over and placed a hand on his shoulder. You hugged him. I'm giving hugs, bitches! Sentimental moments. You crossed the room, picking up a little bit of speed, and Cove's eyes widened. He shot out of the chair and stood waiting for you with a nonplussed look. When you collided into him, wrapping your arms around his middle and knocking the air out of his lungs, all mystery was gone. Cove squeaked. He returned the gesture longingly. Exhaling, you pressed your cheek into the warmth of his chest. The tension stuck inside you, released like a river flowing into the ocean that was Cove. The firmness of his hug told you Cove didn't plan on letting go anytime soon. You both needed the comfort and closeness for just a little bit longer. When he finally did, the two of you took a seat again, but this time side by side.
Well,
Day was a lot, huh? Yeah, it was. Sat there contentedly, you leaned against him. I'm gonna lean against him, bitches! Resting the side of your head onto his shoulder, you glanced up at his face. Cove watched you affectionately. In that gentle gaze, you finally felt like everything was going to be okay. No matter what happens, we can make it work. His mouth pulled into a bent smile at that. He chuckled, resting your head comfortably back on his shoulder. I think so too. And for a while you stayed like that. A comfortable quiet fell between you, and the sun fell with it. The warming calm ended when Cove gasped sharply. You spun, half expecting to find him nursing an injury, but instead you found him staring straight ahead. What?
oh my god.
I think my phone just vibrated. Well, you better find out. Right. He patted his pockets, fumbling in his panic, and yanked the phone out. The force of the action nearly catapulted the device out of his grip entirely, but he caught it just in time. His eyes were honed on the screen. It's Terry! Thank God. She says she's sorry. He looked back at you, eyes wide, as his nerves started to fray once more. What should I say? I don't know. Give it a second. I need to think. Tell her to call us, ask her what's going on, ask her if she's talking to Miranda. I'm going to tell her to call us. Like, call us. Explain what's going on. He flashed a shaky smile as he began to type. He suspected that he'd had similar thoughts himself, but wanted the reassurance of a second opinion. Cove's phone buzzed nearly as soon as the message was sent out. It's Terry again. She's talking to us. She asked about what Miranda said. But wait. You leaned in, watching the conversation unfold on Cove's screen. She's actually gonna call. Cove held his breath as you waited. Though he was good with people, he'd never been at ease managing conflict. His phone rang out. Cove jammed the answer button, his reflexes instantaneous. He switched the phone over to speaker mode, allowing you to participate in the conversation. But despite his immediate reaction, his voice lacked the same resolve when he spoke. Hey. It was tentative, a white flag fluttering in the wind. French Fryers is here too. Hi, Terry. Hey, buddies. Terry's voice was barely recognizable without her usual quick patter and energy. Are things okay? I don't know. Probably not. Cove tensed, his free hand coiling into an anxious fist. Can you talk to us about what happened? Don't you know already? Miranda explained some of it, but it doesn't make sense to us. You heard Terry sigh over the phone as she unburdened herself. Pretty much. I was at Randy's house. We decided to watch some movies she super liked and I had never seen before. Turns out there's a lot of those. We watched one, then another and another. We're having so much fun. Each time one finished, she had another one to share with me. I didn't really think about the time. I only wanted to say yes to Randy and watch her movies. She spoke wistfully, but her words were full of affection. It was Randy, you know. I wasn't thinking about my schedule or what time it was. Totally. And I finally saw the time and, oh no, it was way too late. I already knew I couldn't stay. She took a deep breath, her voice becoming softer. She resumed talking. I was so stressed out. I just couldn't deal with it. Miranda wanted to help. She kept coming up with ways to make it better and trying to figure out why I was so upset and stuff. I was trying to answer questions, but there were too many. But I couldn't really answer all of them. And I didn't know why some of her ideas didn't work with me. It made my head ache. I still had the first problem, and Randy there, trying to help, blasting all these questions and suggesting at me faster than I could even think. She gulped audibly, sniffing. He just got frustrated and told her to leave me alone. But then she wanted to talk about why I wanted that, and we started having a fight in the kitchen, and Randy's dad woke up. He told him about how I wanted to go home, but my parents couldn't get me, so Mr. Eckert offered to do it. Problem solved? No! I mean, yeah, kinda, but I accepted because I definitely couldn't stay then. Not after throwing a racket and turning it into a big deal. I feel awful and embarrassed. Why did I yell at Randy and hurt her feelings? I made her dad lose sleep by waking him up and having to drive me home. This is no reason to stop talking to all of us, Terry. Jesus! What do I say after that? I have no idea. I don't know where to start. And I don't want to make it worse by saying the wrong thing and fighting again. So I'm not talking. Terry, Randy isn't mad that you didn't want to stay or that you forgot. She just wants to feel like you can talk to her. I mean, you can say whatever you want. She'll listen. Not talking to her at all is pretty much the only wrong way to go about it. Terry lamented mournfully on the other side of the line, but he had a point. Unless she faced Miranda again, there would be no resolution. He looked at Cove, hunched over the phone, staring pensively into it and searching for a solution. This couldn't be solved, the other key part This could not be solved with the other key party missing. But what if you brought them in? Your phone was still free. I'm going to suggest calling Miranda, because just calling her is kind of a douche move. I've got an idea. What if we called Miranda on my phone? Cove and I could make sure your conversation didn't fall off the rails. Cove brightened up. The concern furrowed in his brow, which had taken root when Miranda first called, eased. That could work, Terry. Are you up for it? She made a noise that wasn't a word, but nevertheless conveyed her hesitation and worry. But she brought it to a close with a decisive exhalation, as if pushing all negative thoughts from her body. All right, I'll do it. Cove nodded. Now that you received approval from everyone, you pulled out your phone and called Miranda. You set it to speaker and waited for her to pick up. Luckily, she did. Hi, French fires. Her voice was still distant, as if her thoughts were elsewhere, but it was loud enough for your needs. Hi, you're on speaker. Terry is on speaker too, on Cove's phone. Oh? She paused while she digested this information. You watched the phone screen, hoping that she wouldn't hang up as in a result. Really? Yep, it's really me. Can you hear my voice all the way from your house to theirs, and then mine? I can. You and Cove exchanged looks, waiting for the wall between them to break and wondering who would be the one to do it. As the quiet dragged on, you caught Cove chewing on his cheek. He must have weighed up the same question as you, whether to encourage the conversation along or leave Miranda and Terry to resolve it for themselves. The answer came in the form of one sniff, followed by another, from Cove's phone. Sorry, Randy, I hope you still like me. What? You were the one acting as if you didn't like me. Her tone was defensive, no doubt a result from her wounds from last night still being raw. No way, everyone likes Randy. You're wonderful. Your eyes met Cove's. His phone was tilted towards you, capturing the call indirectly. You moved your phone closer to his, hoping the signal was strong enough to convey every nuance of tone. Cove did likewise, bringing his cell right next to yours, even bumping against it as he shifted his grip. I don't know what to say. The only reason I wouldn't talk to you, if I had known the answer, I'd have told you right away. Miranda murmured on the other side of the line. You didn't want to stay. Anything I tried to do bothered you, and you could have told me you didn't know. Yeah, I think I was angry at myself. I did a dumb thing, and I didn't want to help with it. I wanted to be mad and just deal with it myself. It made me keep doing dumb things. Oh. When she spoke again, her voice was quiet and tender and vulnerable as the words. Staying up late watching stuff was all my fault. I had to find a way to fix it. That's what I thought anyway. I should have given you your space. I'm sorry for being so pushy and so sensitive. Hardly. Miranda Eckert having a flaw? I never heard of such a crazy thing. Miranda let out a ghost of a giggle. Cove cleared his throat. You should call each other now. Sorry. Can do. Thanks for giving me the kick in the butt to do this already. Randy Mandy, I'm gonna call you right now. Bye, French fires and Cove. She hung up after squeezing in another quick bye, though not giving you or Cove room to respond in kind. Miranda laughed, the noise tinkling gently like wind chimes in a summer breeze. Thank you for listening and helping. I'm gonna hang up now so I can answer Terry's call. Bye. Bye. Good luck. Bye. You got this. Miranda hung up, still chuckling softly as your call ended. The room felt emptier without other voices in it. Cove expelled a sigh that crashed through the newly fallen silence. He dropped his arms to his sides, letting his head hang down like a puppet at rest. Thank God. They shouldn't have involved us in it. I'm so relieved it's okay. You were simply happy that your friends had made up. The day's events had drained you. You were content now that Cove seemed to ease again. Like I'm happy my friends made up. Cove scratched at his face, his expression cloudy. I think we need to find better ways for dealing with conflict because that was awful. We could all probably do better at that. I think you did okay given the circumstances. Yeah, I think that would help. You didn't comment. Like, everybody can do better. That's what I'm gonna go with. Cove meekly smiled as he rubbed at his eyes, weariness creeping over him, and he mumbled his next words. We can talk about it another day. Conflict resolution methods? No. Forget it. He was gonna tell me something when he got here. Now he's not gonna tell me? That little bitch! Your eyebrows rose and then a light bulb went off in your head. Before Miranda called, didn't you say there was something you wanted to say? Cove's original business had been thrown so off kilter that it was a struggle to wind your memory back to where he first turned up. Now you did, though, and remembered that he had been perky when he arrived this afternoon. Was it good news? Cove brushed his hands against his now folded arms shyly. Well, yeah, maybe. Not exactly sure it counts as news or even good. Just what it is. I'm happy about it, though. Come on, no more hints. You gotta tell me now. Cove chuckled awkwardly, a hand creeping up to ruffle the hair on the back of his head. It's fine. If you want to hear, I can tell you. He shifted on his feet, as if a different posture might give him the support he needed for the conversation. I don't want you to make a big deal, but I'm not kind of. I just know what my sexuality is now. That came out of left field. A real subject change, huh? He chuckled. True, it was unexpected, but you were excited that Cove had come to understand himself more, and glad he wanted to share that with you. Aw, that's great! Tell me! Cove drew a breath, straightening up. I'm demisexual, so you know, most of the time, I don't really have those kinds of feelings. Physical wants stuff. There's only some situations, when I'm already really emotional and romantically connected to someone that I start to ever think about anything sexual, and it's only with them. I hadn't heard the term until pretty recently, and it just made a lot of sense. Once I knew what it meant, I had a word to fit how I felt. Pan-romantic, because I've never had a preference for a specific gender or anything, so yeah, that makes sense. Cove looked down at the floor, being so open and direct about a matter that personal, which you were sure he'd spent a long time trying to figure out, seemed to be kind of weird for him. Despite that, there was a small, proud smile on his face, and when he looked up again, his gaze was steadfast. All this talk of Cove's sexuality made you reflect about your own. Your feelings on yours hadn't wavered. Your view had evolved since when you were younger. No, my view has not wavered. Cove had known for years now. It was heartwarming that he reached a point where he felt similarly capable of discussing his own. He felt even closer. You could tell that Cove felt like it had been an emotionally draining day that had now come to a close, everything wrapped up neatly with a bow on top. You had some good talks with your friends and with each other. A lot had been brought out into the light, and you'd come out of it not only knowing each other better, but yourself, too. But there was still something that Cove didn't know, something that had gnawed at you many times over the years. You never told Cove about how you and his dad first met. I can't! He's gonna get so mad! You had always held it back from him, unsure of how he would take the revelation. His dad seemed to have done the same, as Cove didn't seem to have heard of it from Mr. Holden either. I always say, like, today's not the day. It didn't matter anymore. There was no need to rake up old drama. You decided that secret had hung over you long enough. Well, I can imagine that, like, if I never ever told him, and we did end up getting married, as is coming in part 4 that is still being written, then he might be kind of pissed. Should probably tell him. It was time to tell Cove about the deal that his father proposed. You were ready. Today was the day to tell Cove the full story of how you'd come to know him. Cove. You hooked his attention with the way you spoke his name. There's one more thing I'd like to talk about. Cove raised an eyebrow but didn't say anything. He was listening. You took a deep breath and stated the situation plainly. Tried to handle it lightheartedly. We're still, this is a cautious conversation. Way back when we first met, it was actually your dad I met first. When you'd run off, he was waiting outside the house to see if you'd come back. He didn't find you, not then. But he did notice me as I was walking home. Oh, he looks so suspicious! Oh no, what have I done? Cove nodded, eyebrows still raised. You could tell that he was trying to predict where this was going. You could also see that he was failing. He was worried sick about you and desperate to help. That's why he offered me $20 to be your friend. Cove's eyes widened into huge circles as you uttered the final sentence. His mouth hung open, ready to speak, but no words followed. You stood still, giving him time to process the revelation. Fresh layers of subterfuge being ripped away as his eyebrows rolled higher on his forehead, followed by a deepening frown. And then Cove burst into a roar of laughter. You're gonna play the music right now after making me sweat this question? Like, I'm angry, but I'm gonna dance anyway. That's horrible. He tried to bribe you? And you were what, 8? Dad, why? Oh my god. Cove was bent over with laughter, one arm supporting his sides. He covered his eyes with the other hand, hiding the tears of mirth sprouting in the corners. You laughed along with him, glad that you could finally share this ridiculous anecdote with him, and relieved that he wasn't upset by the secret. Eventually your giggles wound down. Cove wiped the last of tears from his eyes, still grimacing as he took wheezing breaths. Wow. He shook his head. That's my dad. I guess there's always another Clifford surprise waiting in the wings. But $20, huh? What a cheapskate. That's what I said! Like, $20 for the whole summer? Damn. Considering how much time we spent together since I moved in, you were paid pennies on the hour. No, not even that much. Just 1 penny an hour. A fraction of a penny. Not even that. I got nothing. Because I wasn't going to take any money from a weird stranger I just met. Cove gave you a lopsided smile with a shake of his head. You definitely got the short end of the stick. I hope you plan on making up for it. Don't worry, it was a labor of love. I got to grow up with you. It was the best deal I could have ever gotten. I'm just relieved you're not upset about it. It's okay. It was a really stressful spot to be put in. I would probably go back to this, like, jokey, flirty, ha. Am I the one who has to make up for it? My dad was the one who dropped the ball. I was just a kid, too. It wouldn't have happened if not for you. One way or another, I deserve to have this injustice against my child self made right. I swear, like, these writers, like, tapped into my brain and, like, stole my dialogue. The banter came easily now, with that this long-held secret had finally been brought into the light. Cove smirked, a mischievous look in his eyes. How about this? You can spend the rest of our lives giving my dad a hard time over it, and I'll back you up. He made a show of considering his suggestion before accepting with a nod. That might help. Good. We got our own deal now. You breathed a satisfied sigh of relief as a weight that you've been carrying from childhood was lifted from your shoulders. Cove shyly ran a hand up and down his arm, a gentle smile lifting his features, and you knew that he was glad to be here with you today. Thanks for telling me. I appreciate the honesty. He grinned slyly. And now, I've got more ammo to tease Dad with. No problem. We should probably head downstairs soon. If your moms are still wanting everyone to get together. Yeah, that's right. With a renewed spring in your step, you led the way out of your room. You got downstairs to find the others already assembled and waiting. Hello. Hi. Good to see you both.
Hey, bro. We're trying to corral everyone into a group, but the two of you were already upstairs this whole time.
Of course we were together. You paid French fryers to stick with me, or did you forget?
Oh no! Goddamn, Cove! I didn't think you were gonna come out hot!
The statement was meaningless to your family, who looked at each other for answers in vain. Mr. Holt, who got the message loud and clear, seemed embarrassed. He chuckled nervously, rubbing the back of his head, and then his hand froze in place.
Wait, what, bro? When did you figure that out? I never mentioned it growing up.
Today. Just now. French fryers told me. Mr. Holden's hand awkwardly slid off his neck as he stared at Cove, the answer catching him off guard. Out of the corner of your eye, you saw Mom mouthing questions at you. Everyone was waiting for an explanation. Similarly to his son, Mr. Holden broke into laughter and turned to address you, a hand laid over his chest.
Can't believe my partner in crime betrayed me, brah. After all these years, thought we had something.
His voice was deliberately light, assuring you this was only a joke. He shook his head, throwing off the jest as he spoke seriously.
I have to admit, I'm actually just amazed that you kept it under your hat this long, brah.
Sorry it had to be done. You should have never made me keep it. Yeah, we're gonna go there. You should have never made me keep it. Uh-huh. I want to know why my dad kept this secret all this time. Mr. Holden looked back to Cove, lines forming on his forehead as his wide eyes signaled a wordless apology. Can we hear exactly what this secret is? The suspense is killing us. Oh, Glasses Mom ain't gonna like that. She's sass.
Alright, brah. Better get everyone up to speed.
He held up his hands, palms out, pacifying the audience, or perhaps holding them up as a shield in advance.
That first day I met French fryers, I'd been worrying about Cove being alone for the summer, brah. There weren't a lot of kids around, and he wasn't exactly on the best terms with me at the time, brah.
He glanced around at your family, gauging their responses.
Felt like this was my one shot, brah. So I kinda offered her $20 to be friends with Cove, and added that she couldn't tell him about it.
Liz gasped. Ma was staring incredulously at Mr. Holden, while Mom's eyebrows had retreated to her hairline. You and Cove, already knowing the story, were the only ones unaffected.
But after a while, I really did honestly forget it even happened, brah.
Raised his hands higher, now level with his shoulders. Not a bad idea, you thought. If Mom felt inclined to throw a cushion at him, he'd probably manage to block it in no time.
I know that's bad, but I've had so many grand ideas over the years. It's hard to keep track of them all, bro.
Cove smiled, placing his hands on his hips and shaking his head at his father's antics. Can't believe you. Though, also, I totally can. Your moms were less indulgent. The shock had ebbed away to displeasure. Mom's foot was tapping rapidly as she frowned at the next-door neighbor, while Ma had her arms crossed over her chest and her lips pursed.
I'm sorry, French fries. Sorry to your parents too, bruh. That was a way out of bounds.
Don't worry about it. Everything worked out. Your moms gave each other that look where they seemed to communicate with eyes alone. All right, well, that's that then, and it won't happen again.
Absolutely.
Definitely won't, bruh.
Good. It was a little surprising that you were letting him off the hook. But on the other hand, it was a long time ago, and you were sure your moms remembered those painful early days of Cove's arrival, too. Also, they've got to give it a pass every time they found a boy in my room, so... Mr. Holden wasn't a potentially bad influence anymore, so a lecture would be pretty moot. Instead, your ma gave him a lenient smile. Now that that's settled, why don't we find something to do? Nods of agreement cascaded through the group and a couple waves at the suggestion. Mr. Holden's shoulders slumped with a release of tension. He brought his hands down, tucking them away in his pockets. The two families spent the rest of the afternoon together, chatting and catching up. Though you'd expected Mr. Holden's apology, Cove caught up for lost time by pitching in old jabs at his dad. Your moms didn't seem to muse. The news was still too fresh. But you enjoyed finally being able to laugh about it freely. You truly relaxed, knowing that there were no longer any secrets between the two families. You felt freed, and yet simultaneously more tied together than you had ever been before. Sun beamed through your window, warming your skin as you lay comfortably in your bed. With your arm hovering in the air, you held your phone above your face, squinting against the sun to read the latest text Cove had sent through. He was out with the group he volunteered with, Orca, doing some kind of activity. They'd been at it since early that morning, and he'd been keeping you updated by messenger. The latest one explained how he'd finished cleaning up the beach, and how he was heading over to man a stall on the shopping street to sell tickets for a fundraising dinner. I would say that this is trite, but it's really not. When Ari Master and I first started dating, we would literally G-chat all day about everything that we were doing. It was adorable. And now we don't do that. That's for when you're first dating, bitches. Or I saw Mr. Holden, sweet V-neck. Before then, he wanted to call. You didn't mind that, and replied, saying as much. As you waited for it to come in, you let out a big breath, thinking of the formal dinner that Orca had organized. And hopefully that will go better than our last formal date, because that was hella awkward, Cove. Being a completely fundraising-focused event for large donors, it was crucial for the organization's project in the year to come. That's why Cove had been so busy lately. All you heard about it so far was that it was prim and proper occasion, with speeches and everything. And then the notification popped up. Incoming call. You picked it up immediately. Hi.
Sorry.
Hey, French fries. Sorry I didn't have a lot of time to talk, but this was my chance, so, you know. Sounds like you're doing a great job. Are you sure you're getting enough rest? I hope you can pull yourself away from your beloved beach. What a mature and responsible boy you are. I wish you were here with me instead. Well, that's a little suggestive, so we're gonna say it sounds like you're doing a great job. And for a really good cause. It's nothing really. Enjoy the work. Feels good to help out. Do you want to come by and see me? At the booth, I mean. Definitely. Okay, cool. See you soon. It's just down on the shopping street. You'll see it. Right, bye. See ya. After the temporary goodbyes, you tucked your phone away and pushed yourself up from your bed. Heading down the stairs, you found Ma lounging in the living room, seated on the couch with her legs tucked up and a magazine in her lap. She looked up at the sound of your footsteps, giving you a smile. Hey, sweetie. What are you up to? You wouldn't by chance have a boy in your room that keeps coming through your window? Hmm? Cove just finished his orca activity. He's going to the shopping street to sell tickets for their fundraising dinner. I want to meet him there. Good idea. That sounds wonderful. She nodded happily, and then her face fell a little as she put her magazine to the side. I'm still sad your mom and I can't make it to the dinner tonight. She seemed honestly disappointed, but her face brightened again when she looked up at you. You'll be going, right? I can buy the ticket for you if you don't have enough. What's the price? Thanks, but Cove hasn't mentioned how much it is. I'll check it out when I'm there. That is such a mom thing. That's so cute. Perfect. You let me know how it goes. You agreed with a nod, walking back towards the door. Thanks, sweetie. Have a good walk, and tell Cove I said hello. I will. Bye, Ma. Strolling out the front door, you shut it behind you and let out a deep breath. You had known that the event was coming up and that you'd most likely be going to support Cove, but you had not thought about it too much before now. With a small nod to yourself about everything you'd have to do, you began to walk to the shopping street. You hit the shopping street and casually walked along beneath the afternoon rays, window shopping and browsing through the various stalls that were set up around the place. It didn't take long until you spotted Cove's bright seafoam hair behind a counter and the banner advertising the fundraising event. He caught your eye as you headed over and stood from his seat with a smile, pleased to see you arrive. Raising a hand from the clipboard he held, he gave you a wide wave in greeting, inviting you to approach the counter. You came right up to the front of the booth, inspecting the little plush sea animals that decorated it, before turning your smile on Cove. French fires. Hi. Hopefully you're not out of tickets already. Hey, you made it. Not yet. Have you settled in and everything? He nodded, taking a quick survey of the simple booth. I appreciate getting to take a seat for a while. The beach was great, but it's nice to be off my feet for 5 seconds. He chuckled. You were glad to see that despite all the work he'd been doing, he was in high spirits. He seemed to really be enjoying work with his charity. So, how much are tickets for the event? He hesitated for a moment, rubbing at the back of his neck awkwardly. They're $150. I only found out today. That makes sense. That's so high. That's pretty low. That's a lot of money. Are all the tickets the same price? Yeah, they are. Cove shrugged, glancing down at his clipboard as he answered. Definitely not something I would normally be at, but it seems to fit the type of people who are into that kind of thing. Most people that have bought tickets wrote a check for it. I've never written a check for anything before. You laughed briefly and shook your head at him, and upon seeing the look on your face, he trailed off and cleared his throat softly. A couple of people did have cash though, but yeah, that's the answer to your question. Still, I'd really like for you to be there. I'll get you a ticket so you wouldn't have to worry about it. You just have to come. You will? Group members get to bring a guest? No, we get an entry for ourselves, and it's only for people who volunteer a certain number of hours, or if they're actually part of the team running it. So, basically, I'm gonna buy it for you. Oh, that's too much money, Cove. Don't do that. I'll go ask your dad. He's full of money. You were shocked by that. It was so thoughtful of him to offer. No way I'll get my own ticket. Thank you. I can't let you do that. It's too expensive to be a gift. I'll make it up to you somehow. It is too expensive. That is what I would say. Come on. Please let me get it for you. You're still supposed to be my guest. I want to donate anyway. This is a chance to do it. Right, if you're sure, I'd still rather buy my own. Can we at least split the cost? I would probably say, like, let's split it. That's probably what I would say. Cove gave you a gentle look, his shoulders dipping as he relented to your compromise. Know you're worth having there, right? Not making myself miserable by offering. I don't want to make you feel bad by being pushy, so we can do that. Just promise you will get a ticket, okay? I promise. Cool. What matters to me is that you're there. You smiled at him, satisfied with an outcome that you were a lot more comfortable with. He glanced over his shoulder quickly before turning back to you, his lips tilting mischievously at the corners. I'm not supposed to, but if you want, you can sit behind the counter and keep me company while I sell tickets. You burst out laughing. Heck yeah! You're such a troublemaker even when doing volunteer work. I'm gonna go for that. We're gonna go for that. He chuckled and gave you a guilty look as you rounded the table and took the extra seat behind him. The afternoon passed in a blur, with you and Cove laughing and chatting in between ticket sales. As the time drifted on and the sun sank lower in the sky, 6 p.m. finally rolled around and you helped him to get everything packed up and call it a day. As you headed back home together, you thought of the fundraiser dinner and how close it was now. There was still plenty to do before the big night arrived. The days continued on in a normal flow, and before long, the night of the Orca fundraising dinner was upon you. It was early evening, and you were in the room getting ready as the minutes ticked closer and closer towards the time you needed to leave. You wanted some privacy, so you had locked yourself in on your own. Liz was helping you pick out an outfit. Cove was on speakerphone. Liz was helping you get ready while Cove was on speakerphone. You were currently in the midst of picking out an outfit, which Liz was helping you with, while Cove gave his input from the phone. Of course, Cove couldn't see any of the items you and Liz were choosing between, but he was trying to help all the same. The event had strict guidelines, and you wouldn't be let in unless you were dressed to code. That meant having to find a truly professional outfit, one that you were also happy with. You were happy to have the chance to dress fancy, you wanted to be practical about it, you weren't happy about having to dress up. I like to be fancy. There were a couple of outfits that didn't get nearly as much use as you would have liked, and now was the time to show them off. You smiled as you picked your way through the items, your excitement shining bright. Don't need to get too into your head thinking about the look, but you do need to hurry up and pick something. At this rate, you're gonna have a better time picking out your outfit than at the party itself. But whatever you go with, it'll be great. Weren't you helpful, Liz? Don't push me, Liz. Thanks for talking me through it, Cove. I never thought I'd see the day when Cole Florden was encouraging me to wear something formal. We're gonna go with that, because he made the comment on our date that he was like, I don't like these formal clothes. They're tight. I can't bend my arms. I need to bend my arms! A quiet chuckle came from your phone, and you smiled at the sound. Yeah, this is really a once-in-a-lifetime event. Taking a deep breath to refocus yourself, you looked over the options one last time. It was time to decide on an outfit, and quickly. Chose a dress, button-down shirt, blouse, button-down shirt and skirt. You chose a blouse and skirt. Again, I would probably wear a dress. Liz nodded in approval, clapping her hands together, satisfied. Finally, we're making some progress. That sounds like it'd be totally fine. I'm wearing just a shirt with buttons and slacks, personally. Standing in front of the mirror, you quietly assessed your outfit. You thought about adding an accessory or two. You liked your outfit. I do typically accessorize. I needed a little something extra to finish it all off. Rummaging through the rest of your wardrobe, you picked out what you needed to complete your outfit. A necklace, a bracelet. Oh, I don't wear watches. I rarely wear belts. A ring, a pair of earrings. My ears are no longer pierced. An anklet, a hat, a button vest, a tie, or a shawl. I'm going to say a necklace. Turning back to the mirror, you let Liz drape your best necklace around your neck and clasp it together at the back. And a bracelet. You slipped a bracelet around your wrist and made sure it was sitting there properly. And that's everything. I would probably wear makeup for a formal occasion at 18. I would probably do that. Leaning up in front of the mirror again, you grabbed your makeup bag and applied what you needed. Oh, I rarely wear nail polish. I also have never ever worn false lashes in my life. I don't draw on my eyebrows. I don't wear body glitter to a classy affair. Mascara. With your lashes fanned out like that, your eyes really stood out. Eyeshadow. Chose a color to complement the rest of the look and swiped it over your eyelids, taking care to blend it well. Foundation. Using a small sponge, you applied a base over your skin to help make it smooth and glowing. I actually wear powder foundation, but GG game, GG. Blush. Swept the brush across the apple of your cheeks. Lipstick I do wear. You applied your lipstick carefully, smoothing your lips together to make sure the color was even. I think that's probably gonna do it. No, I do wear eyeliner sometimes. You carefully applied the liner to give your eyes more definition and presence, and that's gonna do it. That's gonna be it. You're really going all in, aren't you? Of course. Finally, you were dressed. It had all come together. Okay. Gotta change my shirt and then I'll be in the car. See you in a minute. That is such a typical boy thing to do. Here, I've been getting ready for hours on the phone with you, Cove, and you just have to put on another shirt. When you looked at Liz again, she had a goofy smile pulling at her lips. You look very nice, French fires. Thank you. You twisted around in your outfit excitedly. I do look good, don't I? Now you're talking like our moms. You blushed and smiled at the compliment. I would probably twirl and be like, I'm a pretty, pretty princess. Knowing you had made the right decision with everything, had you feeling more confident? Liz wiped a pretended tear away with her fingers, sniffing dramatically. Oh, precious French fires. You're really all grown up. It happened in the blink of an eye when I wasn't even looking. She chuckled to herself, nudging you towards the door. Time to go downstairs. Your special boy awaits. You carefully headed down the stairs and into the living room, where your moms were waiting for your appearance. As you entered, they both stood from the couch and came over to you, smiling broadly. You look so wonderful, French fires. So there's one inaccuracy I'm going to point out about these mothers, because they are very mothers. Neither of them have ever been like, oh, we're going to take 1,000,000 fucking pictures of you. Because that happens, and you know it does.
Nice.
And very mature, too. I know, right? They continue to coo and fuss over you until you manage to brush them off. Ma took Mom by the arm and held her close, the two of them admiring you proudly. You enjoyed the attention. Thank you. You sighed dramatically. I already got this from Liz. You wondered why they were making such a big deal. I will tell them thank you. It felt a little strange to have everyone's attention on you, but you liked it nonetheless. Liz smiled at you from where she stood, her expression soft. Ma came in to give you one last hug, and before you knew it, another pair of arms was wrapped around you, and then a third. Both Mom and Liz giggled as they hugged you tight. We hope you have so much fun tonight. We won't wait up for you. Stay out as long as you need. You're old enough now. With a last wave goodbye, you left your family and approached the front of the door. It was time. Stepping out into the night, you closed the door behind you gently and looked out across the street. Cove was standing there. His eyes met yours immediately, as if he had been watching your house from the moment you had come out. He smiled bashfully. Hey, French fries. Hey, stranger. I barely recognize you. You took the chance to check over his outfit as he walked across the way to meet you. It was formal for sure, though didn't feel overly polished. It made sense for him, and honestly a sight for sore eyes. He was always beautiful to you. You looked over as well, a subtle blush creeping over his face as he quickly cleared his throat and averted his gaze. You... He seemed to be struggling to find something to say, rubbing at the exposed part of his arm awkwardly. Thank you for coming with me, and for dressing really nice for this. Your outfit, it's good. Better than good, really. Great, I guess. Something else? So, yeah. Thank you, you felt shy over it. Yours looks very nice, too. Damn, Cove, you're so hot right now. You glanced over him from head to toe. Ah, yes! The classic elevator. Oh. Noting that his shirt, pants, and shoes were all shiny and new. Very nice indeed. He ducked his head a little to hide his expression, but you didn't need to see it to know he was pleased that you said so. Thanks. Then he shook his head, glancing back towards the garage and throwing a thumb over his shoulder. Spoke. We should probably get going. Wouldn't want to be late to such a grown-up event, right? Yeah. Go. You headed over to Cove's car together, hopping in and strapping on your seatbelts. You were on your way. The event was being held at a place you had never been to before. You brought up the location on your phone to help Cove navigate there. It took some time to find the right address, and once there you were met with the task of finding a parking spot. Though you were on time, it seemed like everyone else had already showed up and claimed the spaces. Eventually you found a suitable place, before realizing that it required payment. Cove covered the amount, taking a ticket from the machine and leaving it on the dashboard of the car. Despite the small holdup, you managed to ultimately make it into the event, and confirm you were on the guest list before shown into the dining area. This looks like every prom you see in like a fancy-ass high school movie. That's what this looks like. Cove whistled low as he looked around, taking in the extravagance of the room. Chandeliers hung from the ceiling, and the entire place was decked out in beautiful oceanic displays. You were stunned yourself. It was extremely high class, even more so than you already expected. Nice, it's the best looking event I've ever been to. It's way too frilly, it's overdone, it could be worse. You didn't comment. I'd probably be like, yeah, this place is swank. You had to be impressed by the work that had gone into making everything look this lovely, and how everyone had dressed up in their best outfits for the night. Seeing Cove smile as you took in the sights made you think he must be feeling the same way. The sound of Cove's name being called out echoed over the din of the room. You looked around, and there were a couple of unfamiliar people coming your way. They headed over to greet Cove, giving you both a welcoming smile and saying hello. We're happy you could make it, Cove, especially after all the hard work you've done to make this night happen. Definitely. I wasn't gonna miss it. You must be French fries. Cove has mentioned you often. So nice to finally meet you. He has, huh? Well, I hope I live up to the legend. When you looked at Cove for confirmation, you saw he was running his toe along the ground, his face flushed red. French fries and I known each other a long time, since we were just kids.
That's wonderful. There's nothing like old friends.
Yeah.
Oh, we have to thank you for everything you've done for Orca. You're always welcome to join in more activities when they come up. I don't know what's going on with these voices, man. Just you too, French fries, if you ever decide that's something you're interested in. You nodded your head in understanding, giving a small smile. Well, we better head off to greet the other guests. It was lovely speaking with you both. You said your goodbyes and they faded off into the crowd, leaving you and Cove to your own once more. Cove shrugged then, eyes darting around the place with an awkward look.
Oh.
I guess we should talk to more people? There isn't much else to do at an event like this. You found your way into groups of people who were standing around chatting, while some light music played in the background. Servers with large silver trays were gliding between the guests, offering drinks and canapes. Cove approached various people as you wound your way through the guests. He managed broaching new conversation as well. You were enjoying talking to so many different people, both guests and members of the organization alike, and found yourself enjoying the company. The sound of a microphone crackling came from the podium at the other end of the room. Someone who you assumed must be the host for the evening was asking everyone to sit down in preparation for the meal and speeches. You and Cove looked for your table, finding it easy enough by the little name cards that were placed delicately beside the napkins. A few others joined at your table, though they weren't anyone that you recognized. The host was still speaking as people were settling, starting off the speeches by giving a welcome to everyone attending. She went on to provide some more information about Orca, which you suppose was for the guests who weren't a part of the organization, and the purpose of the fundraiser tonight. Orca's goals, as she explained it, were to aid the conservation and restoration of oceans and beaches. There were many people who had helped to make the group as successful as it was. When she read off a list of several volunteers who worked on making the event happen, Cove's name was one of the first to come up. His chest puffed out in pride at that. As she continued on to thank the large donors for the event, you checked over at Cove. He was still grinning, happily to himself and tapping his finger over the top of his knees, pretty pleased to have been mentioned by name. You laughed, you rolled your eyes, you were excited for him. Try to keep focus on the speech. I would probably either laugh or be excited or both, so I'm going to go with the top. It was good to see all his hard work paying off, but his giddiness was also funny. While the host continued to speak, multiple servers dressed in black were setting the first course of the menu in front of the guests. One of the servers set down a plate in front of you, and you thanked them quietly. Before looking over the dish with interest, you recognized the dish as a simple Caesar salad. Oh, I love Caesar salad. That's my favorite salad. The host quickly wrapped up the end of the speech, thanking everyone once more before inviting you all to begin your meal. Anyone who had included a special dietary note was signing up for the event received a vegan or vegetarian. I can read. Yeah, the sauce has like vegetarian. Yeah, the sauce has like fish. It has meat products in it. I know that. Chicken isn't vegan. And there were also small baskets of bread set around the table. Both ate salad and the bread. You just ate the salad. You just ate some of the bread. You didn't eat any of it. Well, Bish, if you're going to set bread in front of me, I'm going to eat it. That's all I'm saying. Cove wolfed down his salad before munching on a breadstick, quickly devouring that as well. I hope the next part comes out soon and it's bigger. You could hear him mumbling to himself as he reached over for another piece of bread. He glanced around the table and you followed his line of sight with curiosity, noting that everyone else was still eating the salad. Stopping his hand mid-air, he quickly pulled back and rested it in his lap without taking another breadstick after all. It was clear he was starting to feel unsure about himself, and he looked a little out of place here. He folded his arms and turned from them to you. Hey, do you like the salad? Really good. It's too small. It was alright. It was pretty bad. He simply shrugged. I guess, again, that's my favorite salad. I can't wait to see what else they serve. His gaze remained purposely tunneled on you, as if he was trying not to even think about the rest of the table and what they might be doing. You gave him a pat of the hand. You made silly faces at the other guests while they weren't looking, picked up a breadstick and gave it to Cove. Discreetly flipped the other guests off. Now, given the mood, that is something that I would do. However, I don't have like a predecessor for being in a sassy mood for this occasion, so I'm not going to do that. I will probably hand him a breadstick. He was going to eat a motherfucking breadstick. It's okay. Oh, thank you. Cove spoke gently as he took the bread from your hand, looking choked up by your reassurance. He munched away on it happily, seeming much more at ease. It wasn't much longer until the main course was arriving, and the various chicken, steak, and veggie dishes were being served throughout the room. An array of scents wafted through the room, making your mouth water. If there's steak, and we paid $100 fucking, I want to eat some motherfucking steak. It was nice that you had been given the option of how you liked your steak, and the meal on the plate in front of you seemed perfectly to your taste. Cove had gone for the steak, and once he started to dig in, he was completely absorbed by his meal. You're gonna choke if you keep inhaling your food like that. You kicked him under the table teasingly. You flicked something at him while he was off guard, or you were focused on your food. I would probably flick something at him. I'm gonna do it. Oh, they're peas! Yeah, peas are hot trash! Flick those all you want! Entered a pea in a clear spot on your plate, taking the time to get the angle right. He wasn't going to notice what you were doing as long as he had food in front of him. It was perfect. You struck the tiny thing and it hit him directly in the side of his cheek. He bolted upright in shock, almost choking on his mouth full of food. The look he gave you was far from impressed, but his eyes still had a glint of amusement. You threw your gaze away from him innocently, as though you had done nothing at all. Somebody's flicking stuff. When you peeked to see if you had gotten off scot-free, he rolled his eyes and returned to his meal. You chuckled lightly under your breath, and he did the same, thoroughly entertained. Dinner eventually ended, and the last of it was dessert, a lemon sorbet that had been partially dyed blue. The mix of white and bold streaks of blue made the little scoop look like a ball of roaring ocean waves. The effort was very pretty, but the serving size was small. Perhaps it was the price to pay for artistry. You turned to Cove to find him pouting a little at the size of it. Digging into the dessert, it took him only a few bites to polish it off. Again, the other people around the table had barely begun eating. An unimpressed air settled over him as he sat back in his chair, sipping at his water unhappily. You should appreciate what you got. You laughed at his moping. You're such a big baby, we could get more dessert later. You cleared your throat. I don't like any of those options. I guess I'm gonna laugh. Let's go for that. Are you really upset about your Dessert not being large enough? He looked up at you sheepishly, embarrassed to have been caught sulking over such a thing. He fumbled for a defense. Really good, that's all, and now it's gone. But I'm okay. With a slight grin, he shrugged to show that he was really fine. Would you like a bite of mine? Do you want my dessert? All right, Cove. I'm gonna ask if he wants my dessert. He got the lemon crepity grape thing? You pushed the dish towards him, and his eyes widened in surprise. He looked down at the dessert and then back at you, as if wordlessly asking if you were really sure. It's okay. You can have it. He hesitated a moment before pulling the sorbet in front of him, a small smile tugging at his lips. Thanks, French fries. You're welcome. He scooped up a spoonful of the treat and put it in his mouth, humming happily. You felt satisfied knowing he'd enjoyed it much more than you would. You leaned back in your chair, looking around quietly. After a moment or two, you felt Cove giving you a sidelong glance. He then took another spoonful of the faux ocean and held it for you. Your stomach began to flutter and knot from the prospect of sorbet. I don't know that I've ever had anybody feed me sorbet. I'm just stating a fact. I ate the sorbet, I did not eat the sorbet. When you are offered a spoon of sorbet, one eats the sorbet. Leaning forward, you ate the dessert from off the spoon, enjoying the bright, citrusy taste on your tongue. It's good. Yeah. Another person from Orca got up on stage to make a speech as everyone was nearing the end of their meal. They spoke mostly about the individual projects that the organization was working on and their plans for the near future, as well as encouraging everyone who was interested to consider volunteering. Cove bent forward over the table with his chin balanced on one hand, listening attentively to the words. As they came to a conclusion and everyone gave them a round of applause, you caught your eye and smiled. Cove caught your eye and smiled. You wondered what would happen now. As the lights dimmed, a couple of spotlights came on, projecting a water light effect around the room. The guests gushed over their ambiance, and you looked around with wide eyes at the ripples on the walls. The DJ that had been previously playing some soft mood music in the background announced that the floor was open for dancing, slowly turning the volume up so it drifted through the space. Are you gonna dance with me? Are you gonna run off like a crazy boy like you did last time? When you glanced at Cove, his eyebrows had shot up, and he mumbled quietly. I didn't know there would be dancing. I guess it makes sense, now that I think about it. He gave an awkward laugh as you both watched as people rose from their seats. It was clear now that many of the donors were couples. A small crowd had started to form on the dance floor, and the DJ played a romantic song to get everyone started off. Cove let his gaze float over the small sea of guests, and he seemed lost in thought. A serious expression had settled on his face, making his eyebrows dip. Slowly he turned to you, but there was something cautious in his approach. You want to dance with me? I'd love to. I was just going to ask you the same thing. I don't really want to dance. I'm going to run off and hide on a golf course. I'm never going to let it go. I'm going to say... I'd love to. I probably wouldn't ask him to dance. His face lit up, and you could tell even beneath the dim light. He nodded firmly as he rose from his seat, though you noticed his hands shaking at his sides. He walked out onto the floor, hesitating a little when you turned and stood face to face. Cove had a hard time meeting your eyes, but he lifted a hand for you to take, unsure of what else he was meant to do. Taking his hand, you took the lead and you whispered to him, "We'll be fine." It took some doing, but amidst your nervous laughter, you managed to find a comfortable enough position and set a rhythm to the music. It was quite nice after that. Every time your eyes met Cove's, he would look away quickly, but he seemed to be enjoying the dance nonetheless. Eventually, he felt comfortable enough to speak. A lot has happened, huh? You nodded faintly. You weren't sure if he meant just today, this summer, or your entire time of knowing each other. But it didn't really matter. It was true either way. Thinking back on the years that you and Cove had been neighbors, it was difficult to even try to reflect on it all at once. I'm glad we ended up here. He gave you a soft look and you beamed, knowing that could also mean many things. But from his tone, you were certain he didn't only mean here, at this event. It was more than that. Nowhere else I'd rather be, so am I. Think we have to tell your dad thanks. Oh, yeah, I'm gonna go with that. Probably. The party eventually started to wind down, and at last it came to an end. When the main lights turned on, you blinked against the brightness of them, making sure you still had Cove in your sights. One final speaker came up to the podium on the stage, thanking all the guests for coming and wishing everyone a good night. It was bittersweet to see it come to a close. Your time with Cove here was precious. At least the memories could be brought with you. Giving the space one more look, you walked together with Cove out to the parking lot. The other guests were doing the same, so you got stuck in a bit of a crowd. The Cove was so tall you could always see him, and it was easy enough not to get separated. The parking lot itself was quite big, and even more noticeable now with fewer cars blocking the view. It took a little while to actually locate Cove's car across its expanse. Eventually you found it, and the two of you bundled inside the vehicle and buckled up. The trip home was quiet, and you both silently reflected back on the experience. The event had been the biggest night of the year for Orca, and now it was all over, just like that. Outside your window, the surroundings soon became familiar, and you found yourself back in your neighborhood. Cove pulled the car into his driveway and put it in park before letting out a relieved breath. Home, sweet home. Yeah. Now, here is where I think of a part of Hitch, which is one of my favorite romantic comedy movies. When Albert is asking, well, how do I know this girl's gonna want to kiss? And Will Smith tells him, so there are two kinds of girls. There's a girl who walks to the door, and there's a girl who fiddles with his keys. And Albert, I'm fiddling. After climbing out of the car, you walk slowly down the road. Cove, coming over to stand beside you. You stopped in the middle of the street, right between your house and his, and turned to him, finding him in the process of opening his mouth to speak. Strangely, he clamped his lips together, though he had suddenly thought better of it. You also stayed silent. It was quite a night. Good night, Cove. Thank you for taking me tonight. This is kind of awkward. Thank you for taking me is where I'm gonna go. Thanks for coming with me. Stepped in for a hug. You ruffled his hair playfully. Gave him a friendly nudge. You patted him on the arm. You waved goodbye. Well, yeah, I'm gonna hug him. You went forward and wrapped your arms around him. He returned the gesture, squeezing tight. Night, French fries. With a last wispy smile, he left towards his front door. Figuring you shouldn't linger any longer in the street, you crossed the remainder of the road and did the same. When you reached your house, you pulled out your keys and stuck them in the door. I'm fiddling, Cove! Get your ass over here! Opening the door a crack, you turned back and looked at Cove from over your shoulder. Your eyebrows lifted in surprise to see that he was doing the same. Oh, he's fiddling! It's on, bitches, it's on. Holding his front door open, but waiting for you to go inside before he did. You shared an amused smile before you both stepped into your own houses, locking the door behind you. Ah, Gabe! I just want to kiss Cove! It was quite late, so everyone else was already asleep. As quiet as a mouse, you tiptoed up to your bedroom and changed out of your former clothes into your pajamas. Now that you were finally home, you were exhausted. You brushed your teeth and got ready for bed in darkness before crawling under the covers and letting out a heavy breath. It was still strange to think about how that was it. The build up to the event had felt like so much and now was completely behind you. Your mind was busy with rapid yet muddled thoughts as you faded closer and closer to sleep. As unconsciousness as as unconsciousness creeped up on you, you felt more content. It was a big deal, but there would be more in the future. You couldn't accept what it had been. Or you could accept what it had been, and you could dream about what you'd get to experience next. And then you were taken away from dreams right back into reality by a sound. Is he gonna come through my window and kiss me? I want fucking kisses, okay? Brows pinched together, fully unprepared to be part of the waking world again. The day was over, and it had been an eventful one. But you heard another noise. It was tapping. Your eyes flew open. The window. There was tapping that came from your window. Cove Holden. Slowly forced yourself to get up. You went over to let the guy in. You rushed over to him. Do I want to play this like straight rom-com and rush over there? No. No. I'm going to make you work for it, you motherfucker. You went back in your house. Extradited yourself from your bed, yawning. You stretched your arms and then made your way to the window. There was another tap right before you arrived. When you pulled it wide open, Cove was indeed there. You had not been surprised to find Cove awkwardly crouched on your window ledge. However, you were taken aback to see that he was a little overdressed. Cove hadn't changed out of his formal clothes. You also noticed that he was perched clumsily. You didn't know if it was because he was trying to keep his fancy clothes clean or he felt weird about something. His body was too stiff and awkward. Cove smiled sheepishly. Hi, French fries. Hi, Cove, why are you here? How come you're dressed like that? Nice to see you, Romeo. Have you looked at the clock? It's too late for this. You remain silent. Again! I have already Romeo'd him once. I shall Romeo him again. You moved aside and let him climb inside. He cautiously stepped down by stretching his legs over. Strangely, he didn't use his hand for support. It was clear by now he was holding something. When he was safely on his feet, he briefly checked out his clothes, twisting around to see the back of his pants. He caught you looking and shrugged. I didn't want to go home after the event, but I knew I wasn't going to be able to settle down, so I just walked back out. I needed fresh air and time away from everything. He paused for a moment and raised his clasped together hands where you could see them. But then something happened and, well, so I have something I want to show you. Cove grinned like a child and gently unfurled his fingers, not being able to keep you in suspense even for a minute. Did he catch a firefly? That would be super cute. I called it! Carefully sitting inside was a tiny yellow light. It blinked off and then on again. A firefly. Delicately, he moved his hand closer so you could see the creature better. You're back. Closed his eyes, his smile now faintly illuminated by his insect companion. Honestly, I didn't think I'd get to see them this year. I don't know why. It's just, they were all kind of late, and I guess I've been worrying about a lot of stuff lately. You could tell that the firefly genuinely lifted his spirits. He seemed at peace, and he wanted to share it with you. The fact that his first thought after discovering the firefly was to come over and celebrate the joy with you made you suddenly feel very cherished. Cove opened his eyes, but he looked away, not meeting yours. really nice, I think. Even if the fireflies disappear for a while, it doesn't mean they're really gone. They'll come back. I can see them again. You smiled. Technically, fireflies aren't even gone. They're just eggs and larvae. You waited for him to continue. I'll smile and then you be you, Cove. And then you looked at the firefly keenly. There was definitely something poetic about it, and you felt warmth in your heart. Cove looked at your face, his smile now fragile. Makes me think about the two of us. We're together, and then we say goodbye, and then we're together again. Day after day, year after year. And even if our time apart gets longer, it doesn't make it forever. French fires, I'll always be there whenever you want to see me. You wanted to be with him. There was nothing else you wanted done. And he needed to know. You quietly said his name. I mean, I would do both, but I feel like if I don't pick the top option, I'm gonna have to go with that. Your heart started to pound. The harsh beat drowned out all other sounds. You stared at him with a firm gaze. You both had known each other for so long. You were such good friends. You cared about each other so much. Although your feelings had changed, that didn't mean they hadn't grown from a strong foundation. It was hard to take the step, to become something else. But this was it. You weren't going to keep your feelings to yourself any longer. Cove's expression shifted into something concerned. His brow was furrowed and he waited for your response. There was something fragile there, and unsure. Cove, I like you so much. Cove, I want to be with you, I really do, like a lot. Cove, would you want to be my boyfriend? Oh, I get to kiss him. Let's go, bitches, I'm gonna kiss him. You took a step towards him, intent and electrified with purpose. He raised his eyebrows. Held his face. I grabbed his shirt collar. Oh, I pressed him against the wall. That's a little forceful. Carefully reached up and placed your hand over Cove's face. It felt soft underneath your fingertips. He looked so worried. With wide eyes, he lifted his own hands. The firefly crawled up to the end of his fingers and flew off somewhere into the night. But neither of you wanted the little light to disappear. All of your attention was on each other. Cove cradled your face with his gentle hands, and he smiled at you. Even in the dark, you caught a glimpse of a deep blush over his cheeks. His gaze stared down at you, and then you stood up as tall as you could manage, and gently guided his face lower. Cove, what are these faces you make? His mouth fell open when he realized where it was going, but he quickly shut it back up. Cove. A heavy pant escaped him at that. It was time. And you kissed him. Cove remained frozen for a moment, but he kissed you in return, almost urgently. You weren't expecting such fervor from him, from someone as hesitant as Cove. No, I was not! To him, if he didn't do it now, if he didn't take this chance, it was as though you'd slip away from him forever. It was wonderful. You felt a rush when you realized that Cove wanted to kiss you just as badly as you wanted to him. You smiled into the touch. Joy was bursting out of you. Your chest was warm with it and your face was on fire, and you knew this was right. Unfortunately, you had to break away eventually, and Cove took in a deep inhale. All of his attention was on you. French fires. Felt goosebumps on his skin. The little hairs on the back of his neck arose, and his breathing sped up. You weren't sure if you could feel his rapid pulse, or if it was just your own heartbeat thundering. He took a staggered step back, and sucked in another deliberately long breath. One hand went to his cheek, while the other interlaced his fingers with yours. His hand was coated in sweat. Nerves were getting to him. Nice voice work there. Oh my god! gave him the space he desperately needed to recover from that short circuit. Eventually, his gaze dropped to the ground and his grip on you clenched nervously. Thank you for that. Should I say thank you? Are we together now?
Do you want to be together? What do you think it means, Cove?
Because if you do, I'd say yes. Cove shook his head, newly stunned, but it was only with amazement. What happened was shocking to Cove, but he absolutely wanted to hold on to this new thing between you. He recentered himself, looking into your brown eyes. French fries. If I can, I'd like to be your boyfriend. I'd like it a lot. Can't think of anything that I'd like more. His lips quirked into a shy smile as he let out a laugh so airy it was nearly a cough. Good, because I want to be your girlfriend. Finally! You blushed and you didn't know what to say. You let out a huge sigh of relief. You felt completely stunned that this was even happening. I would probably say finally, jokingly, because I feel the kiss went well. We're gonna go with that. You hugged him. You covered your face shyly. You jumped into his arms. You beamed at him. Well, I'm already attack hugging him with like no mercy, so we're gonna do that. You felt a wave of emotion, and only one way to deal with it. You readied yourself. Now I had the time of my life. You launched yourself at him, pushing off the ground with a powerful kickoff. Cove startled, but held his arms out with the sole goal of catching you. He caught you and held you like you weighed nothing, the massive size difference being helpful in his regard. Your body had plenty of room against his, and you relaxed in his hold. Cove's arms stayed wrapped around your back, and he kept you lifted. He couldn't help but laugh. It was adorably warm.
Is he gonna cry? Cove!
When you looked into Cove's face again, his smile was sparkling bright, much more so than the firefly he had brought you. His eyes prickled with tears and he sniffled, but you could recognize equal joy taking over him. You both were happy together. You were together, and you were happy. You wiped away his tears. You teared up as well. You squeezed his hand. I'm going to squeeze his hand. His hand was firm against yours, and you relished the physical proof of you two being together. He ducked his head with a childish giddiness and peered at you out of the corner of his eye. Thanks for waiting for me. Definitely worth a wait. You were worth it. It was agonizing. For you, I would have waited forever. I wasn't waiting. You've always been there for me. You nodded quietly. I'm going to say you're worth it, Cove. French fires. Oh, we're going to have to tell everybody about this, aren't we? Your moms, my parents, Liz, Terry, Miranda, everyone. I don't think they'll be surprised. He smiled at you with unabashed preciousness. You figured that even without your history, if anyone caught Cove looking at you like that, it'd be obvious exactly how he felt. His openness of character had some truly delightful benefits. You must have been making an expression equally as affectionate because he began to fluster again. He made some stuttering chuckles and then quieted down, his mouth forcefully staying closed. You both took a moment to process. After 10 years of being together, you were officially a couple now. Cove looked into your eyes with a soft, slightly shy expression. There was hope in his smile. Do you want to go to the hill with me? I bet there's still fireflies. How am I going to get down, Cove? Yeah, let's go. You nodded. You shook your head no. Maybe another night. It's too late. I'm tired. I'm gonna say let's go because I'm honestly curious how you're gonna get me out of this house without getting me in trouble. I mean, everybody is sleeping, so maybe we're just gonna go like the normal way. Cove brightened. He was practically bouncing at the thought of a secret excursion before he suddenly became bashful. How should we leave? We could just try the door. We don't have to do the window thing, but maybe that'd bother your family? You both chuckled at how awkward it would be if your moms, or worse, Liz, saw you going on a midnight firefly catch trip. You'd be sure to avoid that. You wanted to use the front door, you could leave from your window. I don't have confidence that I can leave from my window, but I probably should do that. Cove nodded in understanding. You grabbed some shoes and readied yourself for an adventure. You were glad that there was no way you'd run into another soul outside. Cove would be way overdressed, and you were still in your jammies. You let Cove go first. He stepped back onto the ledge as you carefully followed. He shuffled along, and soon you reached the garage. You planned to use the fence from there to reach the ground. Cove jumped to the garage, then the fence, and lowered himself down. It was quite easy for him. He leaned against the fence and projected hushed words up to where you were waiting.
Are you okay?
Do you want help? Yes, you should probably help me down off the house. You got to the edge and let Cove spot your descent. He grabbed you about halfway down and brought you to rest firmly on the ground. Cove gave you an encouraging smile, but neither of you rests speaking yet. Briskly snuck out behind the house and up to the old white poppy hill. Cove was right. The entire hill was lit up, insects twinkling here and there, with a pale yellow light. Cove let out a contented sigh, finally able to relax in full. He strode further up the hill to better enjoy the view. You walked along as well, letting yourself be surrounded by the twinkling display. Then, without warning, Cove flopped on his back. He paid no mind to smacking his formal attire in the grass. He put an arm under his head and stretched the rest of his limbs out. He was clearly getting quite comfortable in the dirt there. You kept standing, you sat down, you laid down in the grass. Well, I'm in my pajamas, bish, so I'm gonna lay down in the grass. You sat down first and then fell back. You could see the stars when you looked up at the night sky. Oh, I get to snuggle. I'm going to snuggle my Cove. He was warm in contrast to the chilly ground. Cove cuddled closer in turn, tucking his arm up near his shoulders. I wonder if Dad will be mad about the grass stains. He tugged at the collar of his shirt. He didn't sound concerned, just idly curious. At least they're dark. If you're lucky, he won't be able to tell. His smile bent down a little, and it went silent between you. The only sounds were the rustling of bugs in the breeze, and the faraway crashes of waves on the sea. You couldn't help but reflect on what happened only a brief time earlier. Between this and your room, it almost felt like a different world. Was it even real? What happened between you two? You'd almost be convinced it wasn't, and that you had never actually stopped dreaming. Stole a glance at Cove. He caught you and blushed. That little reddening reassured you. Cove remembered, same as you. What you had was real. You watched fireflies, you wanted to catch fireflies. You asked Cove if he wanted to catch fireflies. You challenged him to a rolling race down the hill. Oh, you can rom-com end it and ask him to dance. That's fucking cute. Cove Holden, may I have this dance? Cove stared at you in shock at the invitation. Understandably, he had not expected that. You felt obliged to try to say more. I think I want to dance with you again before it's over. It makes sense. Look at how you're dressed. That's what I'm going to tell him. What else are you going to do in those fancy clothes? He laughed lightly and shrugged his shoulders. Have a solid point. You got up and brushed off your clothes as best you could. A pesky blade of grass tried to stay stuck in your leg. Cove did likewise, wiping his hands on his pants to clean them off. You faced across each other, and suddenly the prospect of what you were doing became more real. Cove hesitated a moment as you both tried to decide what move to make now. He smiled as he wrapped one arm around your waist and the other across your back. He pulled you closer, near enough that your bodies were touching. You began to sway together amid the floating lights. Despite the lack of music, you found a rhythm to your movements, back and forth, step to the side and slide. It was relaxed and freeing. Your eyes never strayed from each other. For a time, you just existed in that moment, holding each other close and enjoying being together. The hour grew late and the fireflies disappeared, until only a few stragglers remained. Then even they blinked out of sight, leaving you alone with Cove and your thoughts. Cove stole a second to release the words that had been filling his head during the quiet.
I'm so glad.
So glad to be with you. He felt a great deal of happiness. Cove's expression was completely open, honest, and full of sincerity. He meant every word. No matter how much it didn't seem real yet, it was. It felt as though this was a night that would never end, but you knew it would have to, all too soon. You were grateful to have been a part of it. These were moments to truly treasure, and you'd never let yourself forget them.